Welcome to the Women on Weights podcast. I am Coach Lori, and I am so excited to be your host for this podcast. We're going to be talking about everything weight training, everything nutrition, everything cardio, all the things that you want to know about when it comes to women and weight training. I am so excited to take this journey with you. Let's go. I am here with Colleen Taylor. So excited to have you here. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but the biggest thing that we're going to talk about is how her mobility, stability, and flexibility changed, specifically in the squat, one of the hardest moves that we do as in fitness. So what we're going to do is chat a little bit about that. But first, I want to just ask Colleen to just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I am 42 years old. Lived in Colorado for about 5 years. Married. I work from home. I travel quite a bit for my job and for pleasure. So yeah.
Awesome. Great. And the other thing I wanted to find out, like basically, people start their fitness journey. They remember when they start their fitness journey, or they have a thought process of why they started their their fitness journey. Do you have something like that? Do you have a story like that? Or have you always enjoyed fitness, or where are you at with that?
Sure. I mean, I have always enjoyed fitness. I played tennis growing up. Through my early 20s and, till now, just always trying to stay active. I would say moving to Colorado and starting a stay-at-home job really pushed me to kind of start more weight training and doing a little bit more of that versus, being able to go straight to the gym after work because I'm at home all day.
Sure.
And so part of that newer part of the fitness journey happened when I moved out to Colorado and was working from home.
Okay. And what made you decide that you wanted to do weight training? Because you said you'd always been active and everything. So what kind of said, hey, I really want to start weight training or get more into weight training?
It was definitely, the push was definitely to, have a specific thing to do a couple times a week. So, I didn't have any excuses of, not being able to get my fitness in. And then also just being able to really continue to make sure that my muscles were staying activated, because being at home, you don't actually move as much as you think you might move because you are at home and working at your desk. So sometimes it is harder to get up and, walk to a meeting because you don't have a meeting to walk to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you can get kind of stuck on your project too, and just like maybe get into it and realize, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten up for a little while.
Yes, absolutely. And that's also a really good point, because it made me, like I was kind of alluding to earlier, it really made me get out of the house at a specific time to kind of put a stop in my workday.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, that kind of goes to the next question. How do you balance your fitness goals with other aspects of your life? I know you are a world traveler, and I love every part of it. And I love hearing about all your journeys, and I love hearing about everything that you do. But I do know, with training you, I know that you definitely love to travel. You definitely love to, enjoy where you're traveling. So enjoying the food and enjoying all of that. How are you able to balance, first of all, you work like you do, you travel, you do all that. How are you fitting fitness into that and getting all that balanced out with everything that you're doing?
Well, I really try to stay very focused when I am at home, to definitely balance out when I'm not at home, because obviously when I am traveling for work, you have dinners. And so if I'm not getting up before work, chances of me working out after work are probably not going to happen. It also can be a little challenging to fit in the workouts when I travel because of the time changes. And by the time my body catches up, I'm usually on my way home. And so really, I try to make conscious eating decisions when I am traveling, but really the main focus that I have had is to really just stay focused and stay committed to my fitness journey while I am not traveling.
Gotcha.
If I'm not traveling for work and it's more pleasure, then we definitely try to fit in some sort of fun physical activities, walking on the beach, rafting, hiking, some sort of physical something
Sure.
during the day.
And I think that's important. I think a lot of times when people think that they have to get into a fitness journey, they think that there can be no breaks and it has to be every single day. If I'm going to weight train, I need to weight train every single day or every other day, and I have to keep this routine in. But that's not necessarily the case, right? I mean, we first of all, we need vacations, and sometimes we don't want to take time away from our family to go into the gym and weight train or whatever. And sometimes it's okay for our body to rest and not have to weight train or whatever, but still staying active while you're on vacation. And so I think that's a huge thing that you're saying is don't necessarily need to jump in the weight room. If you can, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But or you can also just even take a little bit of a break. It's not going to hurt your body to do
Yes.
that. And you're going to come back, which you've noticed. How do you come back sometimes when you've
Very strong.
Yeah.
My body really appreciates that. But to your point, weight training and a fitness journey and traveling has really balance. That's something that my body has really learned, and my mind has also really learned, is that balance is very important in life. And so it's great if you want to work out every single day, but I think to just go hard all the time every single day is really not what the body wants nor needs. And so taking that time off, the forced time off traveling and coming back and seeing how much my body does respond to that in a positive way has really taught me balance
Yeah.
between that. And then you don't also necessarily feel quote unquote guilty if you can't make it to the gym, whether you're at home or whether you're traveling.
Mm-hmm.
There's always
And
tomorrow.
I mean, science has proven many times too that that our bodies do need that.
Mhm.
And so even for me, when I go on vacation, I'm like, I'll maybe go for a run. I'll do some, but I do not feel stressed out that oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all of my strength
Mhm.
because I'm gone for a week or whatever.
Exactly.
So, but I love the idea of staying active. I mean, we obviously don't want to necessarily only go and lay on a beach for a week either. That's not the option, right? Like if you're going to a beach vacation, maybe walk on the beach a little bit or something, and you already do that. You stay active. And I feel like it's almost impossible not to stay active when you're on vacation, because you're always walking, you're always looking,
Right.
looking at the sights and, doing tourism kind of stuff. So that's awesome. So that's great that you can find balance. And I know that a lot of people would probably give up. And this is something that's really special about you is I feel like a lot of people would give up because they'd be like, okay, I went on vacation and now I didn't eat as well as I want to. And now and they kind of like downward spiral. What helps you to say, no, I'm coming back. I might have spiraled downward as quote unquote, some people would think, but what do you think when you come back? Are you just like, nope, getting in there, going to do it. I'm not worried about it. Or do you have a little bit of that downward spiral or are you just more positive?
I think it depends on, what the reason that I was, taking a little bit of a break of not going into the physical gym is. But mostly I have a pretty positive experience because back to the balance thing. It's good for me mentally, it's good for me physically. And so what was the question?
What was that?
What was
Well,
the
I was
second
just
part of the
saying, how
question?
do you not like spiral?
Oh, yes.
Because
Yes.
some people will, right?
Yes. I've definitely been there before. I think, growing up in the 90s, the culture that we were around kind of has led us to think it's okay to spiral and think it's okay to feel guilty about these things. But, if you go back and think about what you were doing and it brought you joy and it brought you happiness, then, you just kind of get into the gym and maybe coming into the gym, I'm just kind of like, oh gosh, it's been a week. It's going to be it may not be the best day, but then, you're getting through the workout and you're really crushing it. And it's like, okay, this is great. My body needed this. And I also had a great time doing with whatever I did while I wasn't in the gym.
Yeah. And I think that's great. I think sometimes we think that's not going to be the case. And sometimes it is. Sometimes you come back and you're dead because whatever, there's different things, but you get through that and it's fast, it's over, and then you're back in it. And even if you did lose any slight bit of anything, it comes back like that.
Yep. And then, it even takes you a couple days to kind of recharge. And, maybe the first day back, maybe you got home Sunday late flight, you're back in the gym on Monday. May not be the best workout you've ever had, but hey, you got there.
Exactly. Awesome. So what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in your fitness journey and how did you overcome them? So this is somewhere where I would really love to chat with you about the mobility. So, I did my certification in the pain-free performance and it is pretty funny because you were saying, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then all of a sudden I got this certification. I don't remember what came first, the horse or the egg or the chicken, whatever. But it worked out. And there was this, so I got certified in it. And you were like, I really want to work on my mobility. I really want to work on my flexibility. What in your mind made you want to start, first of all, working on all of that? And then we're going to talk about all the exciting stuff that happened since you decided to start.
Sure. I think the most frustrating part for me, which kind of triggered a change that I wanted, was the squat. I just we were always trying to figure out, like, how can I get lower? Like, what is the challenge with me not being able to get as low as maybe somebody else? Like, maybe it's my longer legs, maybe it's tight calves, maybe it's all of these things. And then so that's what started, wanting to go on this journey for the
Yeah.
flexibility, mobility, and pain free.
Yeah, because I know, like, and it is true, like, the longer levers, the longer legs, the longer, taller, whatever, is going to have a little bit more difficulty with a squat.
Hmm.
It's just point blank, it is what it is, right? I'm a little luckier because I'm closer to the ground. And when you're closer to the ground, the squat's a little bit easier. So that is something. So there is a little bit something to that. But what I think we've kind of proven, and we're going to talk more and more about, is that that's kind of not necessarily true, that we really can. It might be a little harder for you. It might be a little bit more challenging. You may have to do a little bit more to get there, but it can happen, right?
Definitely. And I think, I did some research, because that's what I do. I research things.
Yes, you
Uh,
do.
and so, I like, yes, it is a little bit harder with longer legs, but, it still can happen. And
Mhm.
so I think that was also a pivotal moment, because it, you're still able to be successful, even if there are slight modifications. That's okay.
Mhm. Yeah. And what made you want to go lower? Like, why wasn't it good enough to just do the squats that you were doing? What was your thought process of why you wanted to go lower in your squat?
Well, couple things. First of all, like, that's what you see, right? So that's what you're supposed to do. Also, I felt like I had hit kind of a wall or a plateau of muscle building a little bit, because I was just able to go to this one spot in my squat. So I don't know if that was prohibiting some muscle build, or if it was targeting other muscles than the muscles that we were actually trying to hit, because other muscles were either being used or having to overcompensate, because I wasn't able to get the proper form
Absolutely.
for a squat.
Yeah. And so just kind of, going on that, I can kind of explain what she's talking about a little bit more is basically when we kind of do what I call like half squats or, not below 90 degrees, what that usually is working is mainly the quads. Like we're mainly getting the quad. And if you want killer quads and that's what you want, there's nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
I do know a lot of people do have a lot of knee pain though, when they don't go low. And, it's kind of because the knees are really, holding that leg up. It wants to go all the way down. It really does. The
Mhm.
knee joint definitely does. And so when we don't do that, we can tend to get knee pain. And so I've had so many people come in, I can't squat, I have knee pain. And it's usually because, oh my gosh, we're working this quad,
Mhm.
we're not going low enough, and we're putting tons and tons of pressure on that knee. And at the same time, we are not getting into the glutes, the
Mhm.
hamstrings, all of the other areas of the leg that the squat is great with and that we need to do to get that full range of motion.
Yeah, and I think I was also a little bit nervous, right? Because then you're bending forward a lot, versus instead of having, bending straight down. And, I like to think that I'm rather fit, but as you get older, if you still are going to have that improper form, then, injuries are going to
Mhm.
happen. So definitely wanting to correct or improve that
Yeah.
before.
Well, and speaking of, bending forward, a lot of people do that. A lot of people, and it's hilarious because you're like, I'm getting super low in my squat, but really all you're
Yeah.
doing is just leaning more forward and your butt's up in the air here. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying that about you, but I'm just saying in general, like that's what we do. We're like, we lean forward because that helps us. And so the absolute hardest part, in my opinion, maybe yours, is that lean, right? Now, let's talk about this. So you came in and you were doing, quite a bit of lean, quite a bit of lean. And the leaning forward as much as you were doing is going to eventually cause back pain. It's going to eventually be to where you're not going to be able to go as heavy as you want to in a
Mhm.
squat because of that lean and because your back can only handle so much. That lower back is not like, strong enough to handle
Hmm.
some of this weight. So we needed to, kind of, come back to the upright position. What do you remember kind of the process of this? I know it was a little bit painful at first. So let's walk through a little bit, and I can help you a little bit if you don't remember some of the things, but let's walk through a little bit of the process. Like, how did you start getting to where you're not leaning forward in the squat and you're getting lower and lower? Where did we start?
At the very beginning, to the point where we were using TRX in order to get a proper form. And I literally, I had to use, as much assistance as possible. I mean, we had to go back to, I guess, what you consider the very beginning, because not only was, you know, had I been bending over so much, but when you straighten up and you actually do it, you need a more core strength. And so I hadn't been able to build as much core strength with that movement because I wasn't doing it properly.
Mhm.
And so I believe the first step was the TRX.
And let's talk about that. I know there's more steps, but I really want to talk about the
Hmm.
TRX because I think, like, I remember telling you guys it's like we're going back to infancy. Like, I know because you've been with me a while and
Hmm.
you're so strong. And but I did the same thing. I was like, you know what? I need to fix my squats too. And so we all started back on this TRX, and it's humbling. I feel like it's humbling a little bit
Yeah.
because you're like, I used to be at this freaking barbell
Hmm.
and now I'm, at a TRX. But then at the same time, you have to put into your head that this is hard right now.
Hmm.
And the hardest part of that was, we're using the TRX, but we really had to stabilize the core. Our lower back was feeling, let's talk about a little bit of how the lower back felt when you actually stabilize the spine using the TRX.
Sure. I mean, once we like learned how to engage the abs, and the lower back, I guess. I mean, the soreness that came from that, what, and even after, during, I mean, the amount of work that those two muscle groups are doing, the lower back and the abs, I felt that more in the legs because they needed so much more time to strengthen
Mhm.
in order to support my body, in order to do the proper um, form.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I remember, because I don't put you guys through anything that I won't do. And I always want to make sure, and I remember going through it too. And it's like, oh my gosh, my lower back, I just felt like, it's a good pain,
Hmm.
but it's like, holy, have those ever been woken up before? And that is something like for people to know that usually the forward leaning means that we just have a weaker back because it's like our back can't stabilize. And so we lean forward. Also means our core is not so
Hmm.
strong either because our core shouldn't let us go forward. So it's both things, just like you said, that really, really need stabilized.
Sure.
And the burn is real. And then also, you still got a great leg workout too. So,
Hmm.
which is interesting because you're on the TRX, it's full body weight. But what do you think actually gave you the leg workout too? Like to feel the burn the next day, even from the legs?
I mean, all of it, because I mean, and then you also learning how to like activate your glutes, and so those the abs, the lower back, and the glutes weren't always activated for me because it was all focused in the abs because I was almost face down on the floor. And then also we combined the TRX with the ball,
Mhm.
and that was also really enlightening. As I started to be able to engage the abs and feel the abs and the back, strengthening. We were doing the TRX, but then you could also start to feel maybe the glutes a little bit more on the ball, and also kind of feel what it's like to actually go straight up and down. And so
Absolutely.
that was helpful.
Well, and I know for you, you noticed that you really had tight calves
Hmm.
and tight, ankles and things like that. And we can do a lot of things to kind of help with that. And we have. So talk a little bit about like the ankle mobility and stuff that we were doing that you can.
Sure. And, this whole process of this was a little, like you said, humbling for me
Yes.
because I think most people in the weight room are a little competitive.
Right.
But I had to
Absolutely.
keep reminding myself, this is what I wanted, this is what is needed. And so back to kind of the point of me doing lots of research and, speaking with you, I had seen, some people put their feet up on weights or just some sort of like elevation. And you said, yeah, that's a great one. I had learned that you had learned that as well. And so we started doing that, and wow, after getting stronger abs and a stronger back and really understanding how the motion is, Being able to elevate my feet just a little bit, I don't even think it was a full
Oh,
inch,
it's nothing. Yeah.
was life changing for me because my calves are so tight and my ankle mobility is a little less.
Yeah. Well, and I know that you would kind of feel like you were going to fall back too.
Hmm.
And I think that's what a lot of people, they get into that where they're going down in a squat and they feel like they're going to fall back. And so your natural reaction is to lean forward. Your natural reaction is to do those things, even if you aren't tight. So you add tightness on top of
Hmm.
that. It's not great.
Right.
And I know that we did some things, with stretching the calves too, where you kind of, put the top of the foot on, on a weight and then kind of, in a kind of low lunge position and really getting the calf stretched out, also the ankle
Hmm.
mobility, because we don't think about our ankles. I don't think
Right.
anybody thinks about their ankles. They think
Right.
about tight muscles, but it's like your entire body is on these ankles.
Right.
So we got to take care of them and we
Mhm.
got to make sure that they're mobile. And half the time we don't even know.
Right.
Right. Do you want to?
Well, I was just going to say, I think also, how we, or you, adjusted the warm ups. And
Yes.
so that was very, I think, progressive and helpful as well because, we targeted exact muscle groups that we were going to be working, and we, did the different, I guess, method
Sure.
of, warming up instead of just, I don't know even what we were doing before,
Yeah. I
because
mean,
this has been so good. But
sure. I mean, what we did before is we did, the basic kind of like warm up.
hmm.
You kind of do your dynamic stretching and your little bit of cardio to get the heart rate up. That's what we did in the past. But yeah, now when we can say, okay, Colleen has tight hamstrings
Hmm.
or Colleen's, quads are tight today or wherever whatever you're feeling that day, if we can, and this is part of the pain-free performance that, we can talk about as well, is that we kind of pinpoint an area that we want to make more flexible, more mobile, and more stable,
Hmm.
and you can do all those things in a warm up, in a 5 to 10 minute warm up. And that's why, like we were talking about, like we kind of do the stretching, we do the foam rolling,
Hmm.
we do these different types of things, and then also get the cardiovascular in there, and all of these different things, 10 minutes maximum now to warm up, and you are looser, you feel better, things are more mobile, more stable. You also get stability by doing the moves, but
Hmm.
doing this prior, what kind of changes did you feel, did you notice?
I mean, I just definitely think that the muscles that we were working, we specifically targeted, and I had never been a huge foam roller.
Mhm.
I'm sure I'm the only one.
I don't think so. I don't think
But
so.
it was pretty life changing, and I now have a foam roller at home.
Mhm.
And even if I come in and I'm like, this is a little bit sore, and you're like, oh, would you roll it out? And I'm like, no, because I'm still getting used to, having the foam roller and, just really understanding how great of a tool it is.
Yeah.
And so I guess to answer the question, like, yeah, it would really loosen my muscles up, much more than just trying to stretch them when they weren't warm, I think
Mhm.
was really one of the changes. So it loosened them without stretching them, I
Mhm.
guess, because when you come in here and you're kind of, you're cold.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah. And there's a whole kind of process about it. When I got certified in the pain-free performance, it's a whole entire process where, we start off by, working with the fascia, and that's
hmm.
using the foam rolling. And then we go into stretching, and then we go into the different, things that we did. And there's like 6 different levels of what we do. And yeah, it gets it warmed up. And the benefit is not only for the workout that you're going to do, but it's really beneficial to avoid injuries,
Hmm.
because now you're more mobile, now you're more flexible, now you're more stable.
Hmm.
So when you go into your exercises, you are not going to hurt yourself as much. You're not going to do these little things, you're going to be warmed up and ready properly.
Yes.
And then, yeah. And what I have noticed too, because again, I'm of course doing all of this, is that I just don't have the pains that I used to have.
Right.
I don't have those little, like, and if I do, I know what to do to fix it.
Sure.
I know what to do. Like, okay, I've got my hip is hurting today. So that means I need to warm up my hip and I need to do all this stuff
Yes.
to warm it up and
Hmm.
all that. So awesome. Well, that's really cool with how all of that worked, and that seemed to work for you to get to where you are. I know now So let's kind of talk about, so there's levels, right? So we start off with the TRX, and that's basically going
Hmm.
back to infancy. And then we go to like the box, right? So I have a box that kind of layers, you go higher and higher and higher. And, we can start on a high level and then we can bring it down. And this is a really exciting one for you
Yes.
because again, you are competitive, but there's not, I mean, it's wonderful, but it's still frustrating because
Hmm.
you're like, why is the box so high? And why can't I get below 90? And we'll talk about getting below 90 too, but tell us about a little bit about how that felt being on the box and that process.
Right. Like a little bit humbling, a little bit frustrating, but here I am, wanting to do this, trusting the process. Um, but it was also allotted me to have small wins because, okay, I might be on the box, but before I was on the box and had improper form, but now I'm on the box and I have proper form
Mhm.
and I'm actually strengthening the muscles that are meant to be strengthened. And so that was a win. And then, we just kind of kept winning and kept going down, different levels on the box closer and closer to the ground. And, I think having the box is a great tool because for somebody with, you know, such improper form and, not great mobility, I was scared I was going to fall over.
Absolutely.
And this, you can, push your limit a little bit further because you're not going to fall over. You're just going to sit completely on the box instead of, just tapping it and coming back up.
Yeah.
And really seeing the progress. I mean, when we started this, gosh, I think in the beginning of January, I was like, oh gosh, TRX, okay. Maybe I'll be, back to the barbell in September in
Mhm.
like 9 months or so.
Mhm.
But it did not take 9 months.
It
And
did
I
not. It did
and I
not.
think that's another testament to how, great this is because it works.
Well, let's talk about the box just for a second too, because do you remember what level you started on? Like how many risers? So how many risers? Humble yourself a little because it's got a happy ending, so you can tell the little bit of the.
It was 6 risers
Okay.
with a step on top.
Uh-huh.
So
And then let's talk
7.
about what riser are you on now?
2.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have the risers because I like the risers.
Yes. Yes. And so your long legs, your instability, your fear, your all of that started going away at this point, obviously,
Mhm.
because you're getting lower and lower and lower. You're realizing that you can do it. And I think talking about the box, I do think it takes away so much fear because I mean, and it's kind of an irrational fear at some point because you're like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm just going to kind of fall on my butt, but it's still a fear.
Yes.
Nobody wants to fall.
Right.
So if you have that box there, you're like, okay, I'm going down to this. And it also helps us be more stable
Mhm.
because we can fully sit if we need to.
Right.
And then we kind of go from the fully sitting to the tapping to the actually not even needing it there, but it just being there for protection,
Yes.
just in
Mhm.
case. And so then we don't even, maybe necessarily not need it. But again, we can always need it too. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with just having it there as a
Right.
support, as a whatever. I mean, nobody's watching, nobody's looking, and you're getting the same thing accomplished.
Yes, and I feel like I've even been able to increase my weight with the front squat. I think that was a big accomplishment from actually moving back to the barbell
Mhm.
um, at 2 risers and really just being able to start to really build those muscles because you can increase your weight
Mhm.
slowly because you are building the muscles, you're keeping the good form, and that means I have 2 risers.
Yeah.
I have 2 risers.
Well, here's the deal. We started off at the TRX,
Mhm.
got perfect form, made sure it was perfect. Then we go to the box, and then it's kind of almost starting over again. And then you get the perfect form, you do all that kinds of stuff. And then we start adding weight, right? So then we get to where we want to be, and then we start adding weight. And then that gets exciting.
Yes.
But you knew the whole time you're still getting a workout. You still felt good. You still felt like, okay, these are muscles that have never worked before, or
Mhm.
they've never worked in this move. So it feels good, even though, like we talk about, it's a little frustrating. It's a little like humbling. You're still feeling really good and you're noticing all the changes. Is that
Right.
kind of how you felt too? And
Definitely. And I think, yes, absolutely. I mean, feeling all the changes, and I actually totally even forgot, that we were doing the body weight
Mhm.
squats because I just
Yeah.
forgot
Yeah.
that part. And so, but yeah, and it's just really great to like look back and see all the progression in, what is it, 5 months?
Yeah.
Um,
That's what we
so
were gonna talk about. So you thought it was gonna take a year, or what
yes,
did you? Yeah.
well, yes,
9
Yeah.
months to a year or whatever,
Yes.
right? And it took you 5 months.
Mhm.
And so that has to be really exciting. And I think, there was that click. It was after we did all this stuff and then all of a sudden there was that click. I think the fear went away. I think just adding that little bit under your heel took away that fear of falling back.
Mhm.
We changed a little bit, widening your feet a little different, maybe pointing the knees out slightly different. So we made just all these little slight changes that, especially with longer legs, you might need.
Mhm.
And then your confidence level just shot up the roof.
Yes.
And then we started adding weight, and then we had to like worry a little bit about butt wink, and so
Mhm.
we're fixing things all the way along. And then when all of that was fixed, we just kept going up and up in
Yeah.
weight. And so we go from goblets to now you're on the barbell and you're doing front squats, and it's really exciting, right? Like talk about being at the barbell now after 5 months.
Yes, I mean, it's such a progression, right? And a much, much shorter time than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other great things about the process and being at the barbell is when you kind of do the butt wink or you don't have the proper form, you can feel it immediately. And so since we took the time and the proper steps to make sure that we have the proper form and know what the proper form feels like
Yes.
with just body weight, with the TRX. And I think that was really the great thing about the TRX, right? Because it can assist you a lot, which is awesome when you're trying to perfect a form. And that's what we needed, right? We needed to know what the good form felt like before you can move on to the next. And so with the barbell, it's a challenge, even if you aren't adding weight all the time. Just a barbell squat in general is more
It's
challenging
freaking
than
cool is
than
what
not.
it's honestly really cool.
Yes.
I mean, come on, like to be able to do a barbell squat is really cool.
Yes, I mean, I would say
Yeah.
yeah, because I would feel comfortable going into a gym and doing a barbell squat where before I would never.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
consider that a big win.
That's an absolutely huge win. So what would you tell others, that may have an injury or aren't as mobile, or, some of those kind of things that they can't, perform something efficiently? What would you tell them? What would you tell them? What kind of advice would you give somebody that is like, I'm not sure that I can do this, or I'm worried about my injuries, or I'm worried about my mobility? What advice would you give them?
I wouldn't use that as like a hindering factor. I think that there are plenty of ways to still either increase your mobility, increase your flexibility, and increase your strength with these injuries. And you might be surprised that strengthening and getting more flexibility in other parts of your body may actually release some of the pain that you're feeling from your injury. I would have like some upper back slash neck pain, and I would go to the chiropractor, once a week. Like, it wasn't debilitating by any means, but it wasn't comfortable.
Mhm.
And since I've been doing this, it's helped my posture, it's helped that. So I do think that getting more mobile, more flexible, does allow your body to have more strength
Mhm.
and can relieve some of the pain that some, may be feeling.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about too a little bit is like the stabilizer muscles
Mhm.
that we don't necessarily think about. But when we're doing the pain-free performance approach, we're really working on those stabilizer muscles, which people don't realize that a lot of times those are what's weak. It's
Mhm.
not that I mean, my knee is hurt, my knee's all jacked up. It may not even be that.
Yes.
It may be these different things, the stabilizer muscles. It may be that you have never done full range of motion.
Right.
It may be the flexibility, the stability. I mean, there's just so many things. So never let an injury inhibit you, right?
Absolutely. Because even before doing this, quite fit, you go for hikes, but now that we've, really built stronger muscles in the back and the abs and the lower abs, when you're out for a hike, it's a little bit easier because
Yeah, that's the
it's,
coolest thing.
yeah.
I know. I ran into that too. I mean, we do these stairs, and we'll end with this. But we do these stairs as like 200 steps going up a hill. It's called the Challenge Hill in Castle Rock, if anybody's from here. And it's 200 steps up, and then you run down. And I remember I was like, why do I feel so much better this
Mhm.
year than I did last year? What has changed? I was strong last year. I had endurance last year. I even ran last year. I don't
Mhm.
really run now. And the change was crazy. And you noticed the change too as well when
Yes,
you're
I
doing
mean,
it
just in life, in
in
all
general.
aspects of life. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's been great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. I think this is going to help so many people understand really what's going on here and
Mhm.
understanding like how important it is to really get your form down, make sure that we're using that proper form, and then it's not a forever thing.
Sure.
For you, it was only 5 months,
Yeah.
and we got to where you wanted to be. So,
Yes.
is there anything else you want to add before we?
Yeah, just don't be afraid to evolve your weight training experience. It doesn't, it evolves like technology. And so if you're thinking that, this process is too new or there's not enough research, there's actually tons of research out there. And, just keep evolving.
Just do it. All right. Well, thank you so much, girl.
Got it.
Thank you so much for listening to the Women on Weights podcast. I hope you learned something new and exciting and enjoyed this podcast today. I cannot wait to come to you next time with more information and more exciting things. Just so you know, I do have an online on-demand weight training program that you can do anywhere. It is an awesome program that's going to show you how to warm up to safely, efficiently, and effectively weight train. We're going to be making that core nice and strong, strengthening those muscles, and building nice, long, lean muscles. You can do 1 to 3 days a week of weight training and 1 to 3 days of cardio, and nutrition and habit coaching is all included in this. I can't wait to see you again. If you're interested in the online on demand, please click on the link in the show notes. Once again, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I cannot wait to see you next time.